One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams, along with
Susie Arbo
and Merle Arbo.
And welcome aboard, guys. My co-hosts, Susie and Merle Arbo. We are going to take 1 hour just talking about horses. As we said, we got a great show and a great lineup coming our way as we talk about really interesting things about horses. But before we get started, I know you two are getting legged up for this show season. Merle, talk to us about what do we see coming in with, just basically barn maintenance and training in horses?
Well, this time of year, there's a lot of horses that have been either out in the pasture or maybe on limited use. So as we bring them back in, you got to remember it's a physical job. Just like like for us, I know Ed, you've done the marathons and the triathlons and everything else, and it's asking a lot of these horses to come in and go right to work. You've got to get them prepared. I use a hot walker a lot, and that helps leg them up and also helps build their stamina and condition them so they can do what we're asked.
Yeah, and I love the hot walker too, just because I always call it the yayas. I feel like every horse has yayas in them, and sometimes they just need to kind of do something that isn't riding, isn't, mentally draining for them, and to have that release. And if you don't have a hot walker at home, no worries, just lunge them. Horses need to be lunged sometimes just to let all of that energy out somehow in a productive way.
Well, not only that, but keeping the training in a healthy way of getting them in shape. But let's talk about setbacks for just a moment. All of us get setbacks, not only personally, if we personally get injured, or what if our horse gets injured. We talked to this between us three. Susie, mentally jumping back, you're big on mental health. Talk about how we can bounce back and how that can really take a toll on us.
Yeah, absolutely. So being a therapist, I work with a lot of people, not only horse people, but just to the general public about our mindset and how important it is to have a positive mindset, and that anything you are able to work through and have solutions for. So whether that be with your horse, with something else going on in life. And so just really kind of thinking about what that positive mindset might be if you have some negatives going on, to try to do what I call thought stopping, where you tell yourself, stop. Not helpful. Remind yourself it's not helpful to think that way. And then try to think of a positive thought about how to help you and your horse through that situation. Because sometimes I think we get frustrated or we give up. And a lot of this is you can work it out. And so that mindset is so important.
Merle, we talked about the show season. How do you get the horses mentally prepared into the show season when you don't have the environment to bring them into, hundreds of horses coming into a show ring and having that ability to stay focused? And as we talked about, not having that reaction that we all fear, and have them more into the thinking side of the brain.
Sure. I always say a tired horse is a good horse. So if you can get that horse tired before the event that you go to. So let's say it's the first show of the year, and don't just go there and hoping your horse is going to do its best and you hope you're going to do your best. I think it's important that you exercise that horse, you ride that horse, you train that horse to be prepared as best you can. And if you take that horse to the horse show and it's a little fresh or event or barrel racing or whatever you got, we do a lot of horse shows, but take that horse. The very first thing I tell everybody to do is get a lunge line and take that horse out and check its mental state. Because on a lunge line, you can see, is that horse nuts? Is it tired? Is it, so for me, I take that horse out. I lunge at the very first activity. I mean, there's a lot of loading, unloading, hay, grain, everything else, all the fun stuff to the horse shows, right? But the very first interaction I have with that horse, as far as me and the horse, is a lunge line, and you can check the mental state.
We talked about feeding for just a minute. When you go on the road for 10 days or 15 days, do you change your feeding schedule at all, or do you withdraw your grain, or do you keep the forage high, or what's your mental thoughts on that?
And that's a good question. There's some guys that they'll cut grain, a couple days before. Personally, I don't. I feel like for their gut health, it's important to maintain your regimen that you have at home. Now, that being said, I'm pretty flexible on my feeding times at home. The barn help comes in the morning between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning to feed, and then they feed again. Uh, they're again 5 to 7 o'clock at night, because when you're at a horse show, you don't know when that class is going to go. You don't know, hey, are they going to take a break right before my class? Or are they taking a break after my class? When can I feed that horse? So for me, uh, I know there's a lot of old school thinking that, hey, we feed at 7 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night or whatever. But for me, I'm a lot more flexible at home, because the horses have to be flexible on the road.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, in this show, we're going to touch base on two disciplines. One, we're going to go into the dressage, which we do have Katelyn Koch, which is coming back, and she's going to be our international Grand Prix rider. She also does a lot of training over here in the Kansas City area. Very excited to talk to her going into this side. But then, Susie, we're going to actually deep dive into what we call the BBR, and this is the Better Barrel Races, and that's coming on board. And for those who are not familiar with the BBR, they have their big world championship at the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds. It's the last weekend of April, and it's going to be like the big World Series that we like to think about it. And we'll have Ross Wright coming in, and she's going to explain everything we need to know about barrel races. This is something that you tapped into, Susie, a few years ago.
Yes, I absolutely love feeling the need for speed and this that adrenaline rush. And there's so much that goes into it, every twist, every turn. And so I'm so excited to talk to her.
When we get into those speed events, that's a whole nother level that we are taking these horses, and trying to hold that reaction side is something I'm really going to touch base with, especially with people who ride in the BBR.
Absolutely. And these horses and these riders are athletes. Just taking care of them, taking care of their body, their physical, and their mental is so huge. So this will be a great episode.
But before we get started, let's get a Kansas State University Veterinarian Horse College horse trip by our own Dr. Adam Bassett. Dr. Adam Bassett, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ed. Today, I'd like to talk about uterine biopsies. They're extremely useful when you're trying to plan for breeding for your mare. I know I've talked before about breeding soundness exams, but these are a major and important piece of a breeding soundness exam in a mare. What they can tell you is essentially the chances that a mare might or might not be able to carry a foal to term. Now, it's not an exact science, but it's pretty good. And what the pathologist will look at when they're reading the biopsy sample is the amount of inflammation they see and the amount of fibrosis, or in other words, scar tissue that they see in the uterus. And then they come up with a grade. And there's sort of 4 tiers to the grading scale, with a grade 1 being your best grade. And then there's 2A, 2B, and 3. Grade 3 being the worst grade, so to speak, for lack of a better way to term that. And so based on what the uterine biopsy tells you, you as the horse owner may be able to make decisions about whether or not you want to breed a particular mare, maybe which stallion you want to breed a particular mare to. It may guide you and your veterinarian's decisions on how to treat the mare in the breeding process. Whether or not you need to do some uterine infusions or lavages, or things such as that. And you can even use the biopsy sample to culture bacteria off of as well, if you'd like to get a uterine culture that way instead of the other ways, such as sticking the swab directly into the uterus. So you can get some really valuable information from a uterine biopsy.
So in doing this, breaking this down more into simple terms here, if and I know this is all being AI'd into the program, but does this have any effect with mares and how we can determine if we should buy or sell a mare prematurely?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, I suppose if a person was looking to buy a mare for the purposes of breeding her, and that was their only reason to buy a mare, they might base their decision a little bit off of what the biopsy says. But it doesn't necessarily have to be used as a decision maker for whether or not to buy a mare per se. Did that answer your question?
It did. As a matter of fact, tell us how the season's going. We're right in the middle of the season for breeding, and a lot of foals are hitting the ground. Everything going smoothly on your side?
So far, so good. Yeah, we're getting pretty busy now on the breeding aspect, and yep, it's that time of year.
And can you touch base on a couple of people asked this question? I don't know if it makes sense in this environment. Biosecurity. Do you have any concerns when they're about ready to drop into their foals of any things that we can do from our end to making sure there's no diseases being transferred over?
Oh, sure. So, from a biosecurity standpoint, one of the main things to do is about 4 to 6 weeks, roughly, from the estimated due date of the mare. You should vaccinate the mare with her core vaccines and her influenza and rhinopneumonitis vaccine as well. The reason for that is that will help get antibodies into the colostrum for the foal, so the foal can be protected. And then when it comes time for the mare to foal, you foal her out in certain conditions. So I've said before, probably the best environment for the mare to foal on is nice, clean pasture grass, not a dry lot, but grass on a pasture. The disadvantage there is it might be harder to observe the mare's foaling process. So if you want to be able to observe her foaling process, then put her in a stall, a large stall, mare and foal stall, and put her on straw. And then that will be the cleanest environment as well for the foal. And it'll be the easiest for you to clean, particularly if you have another mare that you're trying to foal in the same location. You can clean the stall and get ready for the next mare. And so from a biosecurity standpoint, you won't be transmitting different diseases, or hopefully won't be transmitting different diseases between each successive mare and their foal.
Adam, this has been a great tip. I appreciate this. For those who are not familiar with the Kansas State University Veterinary Health College, they have one of the best programs out in the Midwest. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Adam Bassett is our veterinary medicine, and he focuses on reproduction. Adam, can you tell us if they wanted to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to do that?
Sure. The best way to do that, really the best way to do that would be to call the front desk, the large animal front desk at Kansas State. And that number should be 785-532-5700. They can email me as well by looking up my faculty bio on the website, but you'll more reliably get a hold of me if you call the front desk.
Perfect. Adam, we appreciate the health tip. Merle, Susie, I think it's about time for a break as we hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Internal parasite control is critical to your horse's health, but isn't always easy. Some worms are as stubborn as they are dangerous. Luckily, there's Panicure Fenbendazole from Merck Animal Health. It works in a powerful and extremely safe way, so it's tough on parasites, but gentle on horses, making it a safe choice for foals, weanlings, and even thin or debilitated horses. Consult your veterinarian for assistance in the diagnosis, treatment, and control of parasitism, and ask how Panicure can become part of your deworming strategy. Learn more at MerckAnimalHealthUSA.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
And welcome back to Better Horses. Merle, we have a good show going on today.
Yes, we do. I'm excited about our next segment.
You know, if there's one thing we cannot hit home hard enough is the dressage world, and we're going into the show world. But before we get into our next guest, this following segment's been brought to you by the Pinto Horse Association of America. And more importantly, they've got the Pinto World Horse Show coming up, and that's coming up June 8th and through the 22nd. Merle, I know you're going to be there.
Yes, that's always one of my favorite shows and one of my customers' favorite shows. That's a lot of fun.
So we're going to talk to one of our best guests that we had. She did such a great job on one of our shows. We had to bring her back so we can get into more detail. Her name is Katelyn Koch, and she's with Katelyn Koch Dressage, and she's a successful international Grand Prix rider. As we welcome Katelyn to Better Horses. Welcome aboard.
Hey there.
So we
Hello.
just caught you off your horse. And you're right in the middle of training, so this is perfect. So if you don't mind spending a few minutes exactly how you're getting your horses legged up for show season, and more importantly, some safety tips that you have going on.
Yeah, well, that's the big secret for our program, but I'll share a couple little things. So as we head into the spring, we've talked with our vets, farriers, and body workers to make sure all the horses are feeling fit, happy, and healthy, and we're kind of designing their cross-training programs based on their feedback and what horses the weakness is and what they need to do for conditioning. And then training-wise, I've just started focusing on the fine details, you know, the little moments between the movements that help me set up better and, you know, gaining confidence in the weaknesses on each horse. So those horses feel secure, happy, and healthy. So when we bring them into the more stressful show environments, they're feeling like they can do it.
We just talked about the show environment and getting horses that are in your barn and then moving them for the first time into the show environment. How do you mentally get your horse prepared for that, physically and mentally?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's with the young ones, we tend to do little excursions first. So we might go to a neighbor's and do some little introductory, like you can get on the trailer, get off, and be ridden, because that's a new thing for the babies. For the more advanced horses, it's nice if we can get to a schooling show or a clinic before our first big show. And we are always supporting our horses' gut health. We're supporting them with electrolytes. We're supporting them with the consistent feed program, consistent routine that they're used to at home at the shows. All those little things help them click into, you know, their normal life, their normal routine, so they can just stay happy and focused.
Caitlin, that's a great point. And would you recommend, like, how would our listeners, if they were wanting to get their horse to a schooling show or something like that, where do you find your schooling shows at, or how do you make that work?
So Kansas City Dressage Society hosts several shows. They also have a few partners in Kansas City. Maggie Stonecipher of Property Shop, she hosts a few as well. But you can find all the dressage schooling show info at, oh goodness, I believe it is kcdressage.org. But if you Google Kansas City Dressage Society at the least, that will come up.
You know, swinging back to the training side of things, do you have any problems with your horses getting arena sour, where you have to go do something else with them to keep their mind totally prepared for the next show?
Yeah, so my goal is to never get to the sour point. So we really protect them, and in the way of their life is very varied here. So they'll do arena work every week. They'll get out for a hack, they'll get out for cross training in all different modalities, whether it's therabands, cavalettis, hacking on hills. So my hope is we don't run into arena sourness, but if we do, time off doesn't kill anything, you know? And I also find you're always so motivated after the horse show. You're always so pumped. You forget that the horse just worked really hard for you all weekend. Give it a few days off. Let it go sit in the field and be happy. And, you know, kick and roll and buck and play. And so our basic routine, our basic rules, our horses always get multiple days off after a horse show, and their day-to-day life has to be varied.
You know, talk to us about your breed that you like. I know you do warm bloods.
Yeah.
You have a lot of tendencies to concentrate on that. Do you ever move over to other breeds?
Yeah. In my barn right now, I have an Arabian quarter horse cross. I have a quarter horse who is the love of my life. I've had Georgian Grandes in the past. I've had Frisians, all different kinds. You know, I'm always a big advocate that dressage is good for every horse. It's the foundation of training. It's great for their bodies. It keeps them going long fit and great for many, many years. It only can help them in many ways. And I love to see all the different kinds of horses. Now, I tend to stay with the warm bloods because they're engineered for this sport. We've bred them for years and years and years to be great. And my goal in life is to represent the U.S. on some of the largest stages that the international show circuit can provide. And warm bloods will do that. But in our program, we have some very different types of horses, and they're always fun, and they always teach you a bunch of things.
Yeah. Katelyn, I was wondering, we have a lot of people that listen to the show that kind of might not be at that stage yet where they're ready for a trainer or they can afford a trainer, but they definitely have horses and they're interested in dressage and whatnot. What would be some advice that you'd give them that they could do at home that would be some easy things like kind of starting techniques?
Yeah, so I would look at the intro or training level tests that dressage has, and I would start working through the test as a whole and start to find what is hard to do. And if it's hard to do, just practice it in many different ways and start to make it easier to do through balance and tempo and suppleness in your horse. And as that becomes easier, then you might look at, you know, a higher training level test. So training level test 2 or 3, if those become easy, go to first level. So the way dressage is set up, it's a very systematic way to get through the levels. Each test builds on the last one. So if you don't have a program or a trainer that's with you all the time, you can always lean on those tests to tell you where you need to work on things and what you're excelling at, and video yourself and watch it and see, like, where does the harmony get lost? Where does your horse look like they need a little more strength?
Yeah, that's really good advice. So if somebody looked on the internet, you know, we're all so connected, I feel like now through technology, if they got on, what would be like a good website where they could find these tests, or is there good YouTube videos, or how do people find this information?
United States Dressage Federation is our overall governing body for dressage. So that's usdf.org. They will have all our national level tests on that website. And there's some wonderful YouTubers. So Amelia Newcomb Dressage has some great YouTube videos. My friend Molly Martin has made some wonderful YouTube videos. US Dressage also has some educational videos. If you have a membership, they have a dressage university and a database that you can use to learn a lot more.
And Katelyn, you got to tell us what's your goals for this year, and what is the one thing that you like to see students correct that you see is the number one problem you are always correcting with your trainers, with your trainees?
Well, I have 2 pet peeves. One
Okay,
is
I guess that's the way to put it. Pet peeves.
they go into the show arena and they change everything. And all of a sudden the horse is like, who is this monkey on my back that wasn't in the warm-up arena with me? You know, like we all get that adrenaline. We all get that rush. It's our job to breathe and keep things the same. Let your horse rely on your training and trust it. So don't go in the show arena and all of a sudden try to run super fast around everything. Take your time, breathe, and just think of the criteria and the directives of the test and show that off. And then what was your second question?
No, that was actually, that was it. What are the things that you like to see them do that they're not doing?
Well, and there's so many movements. There's so many movements in dressage that it doesn't take a fancy horse to get a 10. They're called the non-brilliant movements. Every horse can get a perfect score on a halt, on a rein back, on a walk pirouette. That is not solely based on quality of horses. So don't give up your points on these basic movements that you can practice every day and not have wear and tear on your horse. And truly know how those should be presented, what the judge is looking for, and have that in your mind as you execute those movements in the dressage arena.
Wow. Katelyn, this has been an excellent segment. Thank you for taking time out. I know you jumped off your horse and you jumped on your phone to get on this show, so this was very much appreciated. Katelyn Koch Dressage, everyone. This is International Grand Prix rider. Katelyn, if they wanted to see your website or get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, it's KV, as in Katelyn Victoria, dressage.com.
kvdressage.com. Merle and Susie, we got to take a break. I'm Ed Adams.
I'm Susie Arbo.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these words. And welcome back to Better Horses. And in this next segment is one of my most exciting segments because we've had so many people call us and say, why are we not talking about barrel racers? And Susie, this is something that you have geared into and you've dived into a few times.
Absolutely. I grew up doing barrel racing and loved it, and kind of went into my adulthood career with it. And then I met Merle, and Merle said, Susie, you either need to choose between your Western pleasure horses and English horses or barrel racing. And barrel racing went to the back burner, unfortunately, but it is something that is so near and dear to my heart. And so many people that listen to the show love it. So I'm so excited to have Ross on the show today. Oh my goodness.
So let's do the official introduction. We are excited to have her too. This is Ross Wright. She's the director of competition at the BBR, and this is the Barrel Races LLC. And this is, just very exciting for us. So welcome, Ross, to our show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Okay, now we just walked through this, so I want to get everybody's arms around exactly your background. So how did you start off? And how did you fulfill your excitement with the barrel racing community?
I was born into a rodeo family. My parents both rodeoed. My dad was a team roper and a calf roper. My mom ran barrels. And I just kind of grew up in that lifestyle and went from there. I competed in junior high rodeos, miniature rodeos. I would be in the youth barrel race at the rodeos my parents went to. I won numerous titles in barrels, poles, goat tying, and breakaway throughout my youth part career. And then in the high school, I won the Oklahoma State high school pole bending, made it to the high school nationals in pole bending for 3 years and once in the breakaway. After I graduated from high school, I went on to college at the University of Oklahoma, met my husband, and we got married. And I, about 3 months later, won the Indian National Finals when they were still in Albuquerque, New Mexico, before they went to Las Vegas. After that, I ran barrels, trained some futurity horses, did some local stuff like that. But then kind of life gets in the way or not in the way, just changes, and seemed to fall into being a barrel racing producer.
So with that extensive background, you got into an exciting organization, which is called the Better Barrel Races. Can you tell us about the BBR and how it's set up and all about its ethics?
Sure, sure. So, my husband and I were two of the original founders of the BBR. We helped create it, run it from the beginning. The BBR is, I believe, we're in our 22nd or 23rd season this year. 22nd because we're kind of on our 21st World Finals in April. It started out as 7 large central United States producers that got together wanting a large World Finals in the central part of the United States. We wanted something here in the central part, to where we could go to something, not just on the coast. And our first year, we had, I think, just over 500 entries at our World Finals. And 2 years ago, we had over 2,000 in the same in just one of the barrel races that we offered at the World Finals. And we typically have over 6,000 runs, and it's probably the world's largest one because we feel like a 3-ring circus at times. We have 3 arenas going for 5 days, 10 hours a day, and it is nothing but barrel racing.
It's no lie. We really like your name, Better Barrel Racing, at Better Horses. But
that's right.
Can you tell us what makes Better Barrel Racing different than other barrel races?
I think what makes the BBR a little bit different, we have our toe, we feel like, and probably more like our foot in several different disciplines. We have our divisional, which is our largest part and what we were founded and created on, and we feel like do a pretty good job at the divisional racing, like the 5D, which is our World Finals. We also have a futurity standings where we offer a Futurity Riders Guild members the opportunity to have Horse of the Year and Rider of the Year at the futurity level for those horses that are 5 and under competing their first year. And it kind of highlights some of the trainers also in our industry. And then the BBR is also the sanctioning body for the American Rodeo. So that puts us also in the rodeo spectrum. And a couple of weeks ago, when Brandon Collins, he won $1.1 million with his final run at the American in Globe Life in Arlington. And it was super exciting. He's one of our members, came through from the contender, I would say the contender path, and had to go to a contender at one of the BBR sanctioned events. And we get to help along the way with the American side too.
So let's really break this down here now to barrel races. So to qualify into a BBR finals, how many races do I have to go to and how do I qualify for the year?
For the BBR World Finals in April, you have to join. So that's the first thing. You have to join. And then after you join, you just need to participate in 8 races throughout the calendar year, January 1 to December 31. And that gets you qualified to come to the BBR World Finals, is 8 of them. We have a lot of shows that are double points, double qualifiers. If they have a BBR extra or an American tour with them, that makes your one day turn into 2. And if you're a gold card member, you can qualify with 6 races. And if you're at a 3-day race and you enter all 3 days, you're qualified. So getting qualified for the BR World Finals, depending on where you live, may not be very hard at all.
So if Susie wants to start barrel racing like right now, talk to her about the point program that she has to get into. So, and what division? So you got to get, it's 5 divisions, correct?
It's 5 divisions, but everybody enters the same barrel race. It was a concept that came up, I believe, in the early 90s and has just kind of been tweaked here and there to fit whoever, whatever's going on. The divisions are, everybody enters the same open. Everybody pays the same entry fee. If you have, let's say, 100 people entered, whoever runs the fastest time, that's the first division or the 1D. And then for going for the better barrel races, how we do it, we're a 5D program. So the 2D is 5/10 off of that, or a half a second drops down off of that. That's your 2D. Another half a second or a full second off the 1D is the 3D. Another half a second is the 4D, and another half a second is the 5D. So we drop down in half-second increments at a 5D level.
That's so awesome. Because I feel like, even if people are maybe getting back into it, maybe they did it as a youth, or if they're just beginning, it kind of gives them a starting point at whatever level they are. So that's pretty awesome. You being, I was listening.
Does.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to all the different things that you've done. You're kind of an all-around cowgirl, doing a lot of different things. What would you recommend to people at home if they were wondering, should I check this out? What could they do at home right now with their horses kind of to get ready and figure out this barrel racing world?
if you have a horse at home or if you're taking lessons somewhere, I would suggest, calling, or you can look on the Better Barrel Races website. You can select it by state, shows by state, and you can even contact a producer that's local to you if you're interested in going somewhere. We're happy to always take calls here in our office, and our number is listed on our website. We can kind of, I wouldn't say steer you in the path for a trainer, because we really don't have any that we do or don't endorse, while there is a ton of really great ones out there. I think the best thing to do is just, ride your horse. There's a lot of great tutorials out there. There's a lot of great websites that you can follow of futurity trainers, of past champions that go out and do informational videos of, anywhere from saddling your horse to how to start a horse on the pattern to, maybe more advanced concepts. And I think those are a great place to start if you've never been. If you've been and you're trying to get back in it, it's a little bit of a different world than what it was probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, but that's where I would start.
And Ross, you mentioned something that's a little different. Is we got listeners from coast to coast, obviously, but most of the Better Barrel Races are in the Midwest region, aren't they?
Well, we have a lot in the Midwest region. The bulk of them are, but I will say we are growing on both of the coasts. This year, we're able to, we're going to add a new show in Ohio, Columbiana, Ohio, that we're excited about in June. But our membership is really growing on the coast. We have American contenders we had them last year in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We have them in Washington State and down the coastline of California into Arizona. So we don't leave anywhere out. It's just, as people start to grow and the association has grown, people start to contact us, and we're happy to sanction shows in any part of the country. And if they have any questions, give me a call, because I'm the one who does most of the show approvals.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Ross Wright, the director of competition for the BBR, the Better Barrel Races. And if you want more information, betterbarrelraces.com is where you can find it. I have one question that I have to, when I was in high school and we were in barrel races, which is many moons ago, a lot of guys were doing it. So let's talk about the gender switch. So it's a lot of females out there. Are you seeing the male gender coming back into barrel racing?
I don't really think that the male gender has ever left. I think that it's just maybe got a little bit of a bigger platform as time has gone on, especially with the American Rodeo and the BBR involvement, that men have they have a platform to be showcased. Brandon Collins, who won it, he has sent horses. I think he's had horses that actually were run at the National Finals Rodeo. There's lots of men that have been. I think it just depends on where you go and what you're seeing. Futurity trainers, there's still a lot of men out there. There's still a lot of participation. I think it just is a matter of where you're looking at.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the type of shows and endorsing these shows, if somebody wanted to endorse one of your shows, how would they go about that?
They would just contact us. Actually, the best thing to do, if you have a show, if you're like an existing producer and you're wanting to have your show BBR approved, you can go to our website, betterbarrelraces.com. We have headers at the top. Click on producers. You scroll down just a little bit. It'll say download PDF, producer application. You can download it and either email it to ross@betterbarrelraces.com, or you can send it in.
That's great. And tell us about some upcoming events that you got. Can you tell us where your next events will be?
Our World Finals is our next big event that's coming up that the BBR actually produces, April 23rd through the 28th in Oklahoma City at the OK State Fair Park. It's a great location. And you actually, anybody still can qualify for it to some extent, but our books have already closed. So we have a new member non-qualifier race. We have a youth race. We have a futurity, and then we have our World Finals as well. In addition, we also have some invitational races from people who qualified from our short go the previous year. So there's really something for everybody each year at the World Finals. After that, we will go into Columbiana, Ohio in the middle of June. It is June the 13th through the 16th. We have Dressage Free for All, which will be in Glen Rose, Texas, June the 21st through the 23rd. We have the Summer Shootout in August in Oklahoma City, the Ardmore Barrel Futurity at the end of September, another show in Glen Rose the 1st of October, and the OKC Barrel Futurity in it's the 9th through the 15th of December. And then we kind of start back all over again with the Dinosaur Classic in January.
Perfect. And I'm assuming that the World Finals are always held in Oklahoma City?
The World Finals have always been in Oklahoma City. We're the last week of April. We started out the first 5 years in January, and we were able to acquire a date that was in April, and it's really fit us well. So yeah, it's in Oklahoma City. It's always been in Oklahoma City, and we don't
Great.
anticipate it changing. They are under construction, so I know that there's a lot of people that think that the Coliseum, the Jim Nort Coliseum, where we always run, that they don't know what's going to happen. They will have the new Coliseum up and using before they would take down the Jim Nort. So that's where we'll stay.
Perfect. Well, I want to tell you something. It's nice to see that you started the BBR and that you brought in a lot of extra money to the sport, which is also very good. But you really brought a lot of great ethics and safety to the sport, which I think is very important in speed events. And to our listening audience out there, this is a speed event, and this is very, very important. So what are the safety tips that you like to see out there when you're in a show or when you're training that you'd like to give out to our listening audience?
I think if I had, I don't even know that it'd be called a training tip. I think from a producer standpoint, it's something that's in our rules is unfortunately, we see it enough to have a rule about it, that you have people that are on horses that aren't safe for them or really anybody around them. And for those, we will disqualify them or ask them not to participate. If you have a horse that doesn't want to go in, if it's rearing up, if there's a problem, I would suggest, take it to your vet, take it to, maybe something's wrong with its feet. So, maybe consult a farrier, make it to where it's not. Barrel racing is supposed to be fun to some extent at every level, in my opinion. From the people who win will tell you they enjoy it to the people who just enjoy it as a sport. And so when you can't get your horse in the pen or it's a danger to you or anybody else, that's where I start off with, because that's when you're exposing people who otherwise wouldn't be exposed to a problem. So definitely that's one of the big things. I think if you have a horse that, kicks or has a problem like that, make sure that you stay away from people when you go to a show. Probably my tips are going to be more when you go to the shows, because that's where I see a lot of the problems. Is you have small problems at home, they intensify when you go somewhere else, because just like a kid, when you take them somewhere to perform, they usually act out. And horses, they never cease to definitely humble you at the times when you don't need humbled. So, if you think you have a problem at home, you're probably going to have a bigger problem when you take them somewhere.
Little kids and animals will make liars out of you every time.
Yeah.
Every time. We have one daughter, and I will tell you, when she was little, she could make a liar out of us as fast as she couldn't. So definitely, I think that's just, the biggest things. And probably my biggest thing is if you have a child or a spouse or anybody who wasn't raised within the industry and they're wanting to get into it, think it's fantastic to have new people in our sport. That's what every sport wants, is new people in your industry. Be sure and find somebody that you kind of feel like you can trust to give you some good tips, to make sure that you're safe, to make sure the horse that you or your loved one is riding is going to be safe for them. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Nobody wants to see anybody, in a bad situation that would discourage them from continuing on. And unfortunately that happens in every discipline, as you put them on somebody gets on a horse that's too much for them, and then they want to quit something that they really wanted, probably could have enjoyed. So I would definitely find that person who you kind of feel like you can trust, who knows the industry more than you definitely do, if you're wanting to get in as a new person.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, first of all, thank you, Ross Wright, for joining us here in Better Horses. Ross Wright, the Director of Competition at the BBR, who's putting together the safe, sound, and one of the best BBR barrel races there are. We'd love to have you come back on our show as we talk about the finals that are going off, and you got to tell us everything on how it goes. And again, that's the BBR World Finals, will be held on the last weekend of April on Oklahoma State Fairgrounds in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service. That's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Runny nose, cough, fever. It's flu season for humans and horses. Like human flu vaccines, equine flu vaccines must be updated to protect against the flu strains circulating now. Merck Animal Health's flu-containing vaccines include the most current flu strains, protecting your horse from illness and time-missed training because of it. Talk with your veterinarian about Prestige flu vaccines and learn more about the science of advanced protection at prestigevaccines.com. We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
You know, as we wrap up this show, there's nothing better than talking about the different disciplines in the equine industry. And we talked about dressage today. We talked about the barrel racing today. I have to tell you too, Merle and Susie, we are going to have some roping guys coming in talking about techniques of roping, which I think is going to be very exciting. So a couple of announcements right here on events coming out. If you want to look at Better Barrel Races finals, we set it April 23rd through the 28th in Oklahoma City, and then it starts the next races. So the Extreme Barrel Race, May 28th to June 2nd in Reno, Nevada. You had the Virginia Barrel Classic on May 30th through June 2nd on Lexington, Virginia. So there's a lot of barrel races coming up, just a lot of great things in barrel racing.
You know, Ed, this is a little known statistic, but did you know most barrel racers are cremated?
I don't think I knew that. Susie?
Yeah, they are. It's because the dirt is never good enough.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's where it's getting down to. And I heard that about barrel racers. Yeah, footing is never good enough. So, you know, everyone, if you haven't heard from us, if you haven't checked us out, check us out at betterhorses.com. We have a lot of great things. We want to thank all our listeners, our readers, and our viewers, because we do have a newspaper coming out, and you can check out our spring edition that we have coming.
We also love our TV show. I feel like it's always so informative. It helps us all get better with our horses. It airs on RFD TV and the Cowboy Channel. It's also streaming on Equus TV. And you can always catch us on YouTube as well. And our betterhorses.com. You can always catch that episode if you happen to miss it. So we love the TV show as well. We love all of it.
And, you know, I also want to thank our trainers that go out of their way to produce these episodes and special segments for us, just to teach us about training and all about horses. And Merle, we've been in this business for such a long time, and it seems like it humbles us, as we talked about in our show. And it's amazing how these horses can continue to keep us just learning all the time.
Oh yeah, it's really a lot of fun to learn about. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences too.
You know, we'd like to thank our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, our TV producer,
Yes.
Kelly Creech, and naturally all our sponsors. But as always, remember, we want to thank all of you good buckaroos and buckarettes. Want to mind your mom and dads, be brave, but don't take any chances out there. And until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
I'm Susie Arbo.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.